What's up, SpookBox? The only podcast that you let drown. The podcast you never paid any attention to. Look at what you did to our podcast. How was that?
Great.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. My poor podcast.
How is everyone this week?
You go first.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I was just looking at Heather, but you go first, Heather.
Yeah, just it's a pandemic, you know.
Yeah, that it is.
There's a pandemic, and
I prefer it to the last one.
the last pandemic or
Spanish
the last
flu.
film.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I think Spanish flu definitely. Obviously, Spanish flu had that, you know, sort
Continental
of continental vibe. Yeah, exactly.
I think, yeah, people are out and about having a good time, and they're, you know, quite happy about that. But I'm not happy about that. I'm quite grumpy about that, and I think that everyone should just be at home listening to our podcast. So
yeah, definitely.
that's how I feel, to be honest.
It's occurred to me that we probably have enough episodes after this one that you could probably binge it.
Oh yeah, it's bingeable.
We should sell ourselves as a bingeable content manufacturer.
Maybe we should hope that everyone that's been out partying and doing too much gets coronavirus so that they're stuck at home and have to binge our podcast.
Disclaimer: we do not hope that.
I can't believe it's taken us this long for Heather to wish coronavirus
To F up in such a huge way. Well, it's already happening, and just saying, like, it's pretty easy to avoid it. if
Yeah, look,
you-
you're just saying
want
that
to.
there could be positive outcomes to this at the end of the day, and that it's always important to look at the silver lining, such as 16 hours of SpookBox content readily available for you to listen to on youtube.com or a variety of different sources when I get off my lazy arse and upload them.
I don't know whether I'm like pro VR society then, if I'm thinking along these tracks right now, like everything is dog shit, but at least the media's good. Like, doesn't that take you to the end point of like, well, it doesn't matter how bad anything gets, just like go into your little virtual headset?
Have you seen Upgrade, Dav?
Upgrade? No.
Upgrade.
What's that?
It's a word that makes my microphone peak. But other than that, it's also a film released by Blumhouse Pictures where a lad, unfortunately, has a sore back and he has to get a microchip stuck in his back. And then he becomes like a cyborg.
So it's RoboCop.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, but there's a whole thing in it. But in one part of the film, he turns to somebody and says, "I just don't understand why somebody would choose VR over reality."
But he did have a big nice house and stuff. Like, those people were living in an abandoned flat block. Like, he was assuming all realities are made equal, you know.
He does choose
Maybe that
VR.
was
You know,
stupid of him. He does.
Aye.
Oh yeah, in the very end, but like,
Spoilers.
he doesn't really choose it. He just goes mad. But maybe that's all you can say about anyone that chooses
I guess
VR.
what people don't know about us is that we're actually, whenever we do podcasts from like a warehouse on the outskirts of the city.
Sorry, I have to take my VR headset off. What was that you said? I couldn't hear you over
the movie actually
VR.
reminded
Over the
me
VR.
the most of The Matrix, like in terms of this person with like a maxed out
Sorry, I can't VR now. I'm wearing a towel.
physicality and being chased by like these agents that are overpowered in this like sci-fi world. But the way that they realize the sci-fi world, I think, is actually pretty classy for like someone trying to do like 30 years in the future from now,
Yeah.
maybe 20 years in the future from now, in a realistic but like grungy sci-fi aesthetic. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I not watch the right film?
No, this isn't the film we're talking about. I just don't want to talk about the episode film.
So that was Heather's week in a nutshell. That's a lot more of that content available on Heather's separate podcast,
Which is
a week in
called
my life by Heather
Sci-fi
O'Donnell.
things that are cool.
Bye, Heather. Dav, do you want to chime in with how your week was, or
How my week was? It's been fine. I've been all over.
Oh, yeah.
Safe. Well, social distancing to a degree.
As much as Megabus allows.
As much as Megabus allows. But I'm back, baby. I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm badder than ever.
I don't
good to have
like
you back.
talking about ourselves. Can we talk about the film?
You're a
Why
VR person.
As soon as I start talking about myself, you're like,
I don't like
This
talking
is
about
boring.
Dav's self.
No, I want us to remain anonymous, and now I'm worried that you've revealed you take the Megabus. Some crazed fan might
No,
just
we
might
mean
jump
just because
you.
some of us don't take it, apparently.
No, but that makes you vulnerable to the internet. I'm scared for you.
Hey, look, if someone wants to jump me on a Megabus,
That was gonna
look,
happen.
I've got a death wish. Do
either
it.
way, whether or not you told
Yeah.
people about it.
Great, another person is
Yeah.
jumping me. Fantastic.
Oh, the third person this
third
week
person, this is great.
jumping me on a
You
Megabus.
do the Denzel, but on a Megabus.
Exactly, yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
It's not that your week's boring, my dear friend. It's just that I don't want you to make yourself vulnerable to people because apparently I'm this much of a misandrist today. So
My week
fair
was poor. I basically took a week off work, but it's one of those things where I didn't really know how to take a week off work when I'm already working from home. Just kind of like, I don't know, what do? Just set an out of office email saying I feel sick. I don't know. It was very strange. It was unusual. I played it badly, but
Were you sick?
yeah. Well, I was. My heart was sick.
I hear you.
I'm lazy,
I hear you.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, as I'm sure everybody can guess from that introduction, this week we're going to be talking about Friday the 13th, the 1980 movie by Sean S. Cunningham, the man behind Friday the 13th. Yeah, he didn't really do a lot else. I actually think this film is quite interesting for a couple of reasons. One reason is that it was just made off the back of Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So Sean
2
Cunningham...
years between them, maybe?
1
Something
year.
like that? 1
Yeah,
year.
1 year, yeah. Cunningham has admitted in interviews, not admitted, I mean, admit sounds like it's something to hide. He's quite readily volunteered the information that his inspiration for this film came from seeing the box office from Halloween coming back saying, that movie's making a lot of money, let's rip it off. And that is a direct quotation.
Had he not done much of anything else before
He had
that?
made an edutational
okay.
erotic film called The Art of Marriage. I'm pretty sure it's called. So it's like, you know, like The Joy of Sex.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's educational.
So you're telling me that
erotica.
he went from one rip-off to the other?
That's a hilarious joke. Unfortunately, I don't get it. But nonetheless.
The idea that he would make The Art of Marriage as a rip-off of The Joy of Sex.
I see.
And then he would make
I
Friday the 13th.
apologize for my lack of intelligence. Yeah, no, I think it's also interesting because this was Kevin Bacon's second film.
Second film.
Yeah, which is quite good. After...
I think he did pretty bad having like a yellow body with a pink face. Like, I think he should have tried to do something about that
Was
when
his
he got
body
murdered.
yellow? What are you talking about?
It was a fake body, but no, I'm blaming Kevin for that.
Oh, fuck. Now who's the idiot?
in
That
the
wasn't
scene-
very good when he was like pink and yellow.
Well, apparently he said that it's the photograph that people get him to sign his autograph on the most.
Is that shot?
Is that shot of him with the arrow through his neck. And he said he used to find it funny, but now he's
It's
starting
not
to
an
find it
arrow.
kind of creepy.
He gets stabbed with a knife through the bed. Does he
No,
not? It's an arrow.
apparently it's an arrow.
It doesn't look like a knife. It looks like
Right.
something else. It looks sort of more ornate than a knife. It looks
Right.
like
Because it's the tip of an arrow.
an arrowhead.
Right.
Right.
Mm.
An arrowhead, yes.
Yeah.
That's what the scientists call it.
That's
I wonder if people
Archery
after seeing it
scientists.
had like fear lying in their bed that there was something under their bed
yeah,
gonna
probably.
put an arrow through them.
Yeah.
I wonder
I
if it
think
did
so. Yeah, I think I
Sure.
saw this film when I was far too young to see this film, and I'm pretty sure that I was
that. You were
afraid
worried
of.
about that.
Yeah, but I think I was afraid of a lot of those kinds of things for unrelated reasons. Wait, no, that sounded really weird.
Were
It did sound really weird.
Were the Goosebumps books out by 1980? Or were they more of a
I can't imagine they
90s
would have
thing?
been. I
don't
think they
think
would have
so.
been more late 80s.
Because it's very
if not
like
just
a
90s.
Goosebumps book. Well, or the movie
That someone
starts.
gets murdered with an arrowhead.
No, like the.
I think
the
that was
cat-
R.L.
It's actually-
Stine.
you know,
There
actually-
is a Goosebumps book about like a ghost in a summer camp pond, lake, whatever, like a haunting thing.
It's weird though, because it'd be the least creative R.L. Stein story. Because like the
A
thing
lot of
about
them were
R.L. Stein
quite
stories is that there's
creative.
always like a thematic thing. It's like it's
Yeah.
a puppet. Garbage ghost.
Because he felt like garbage.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But there was definitely like a lake ghost.
Lake ghost.
Because I like would have read that as a kid and then saw Friday the 13th now, I'm just like, oh, this is like a bad Goosebumps movie. Like,
right. Oh, I'm going to get that in a wee second. So just to say that, yeah, we're looking at 1980s Friday the 13th, and yeah, there was one last thing that I want to say about it. I think this film's quite interesting because it is actually one of the first independent films to have been distributed by a large distributor. Huh. So it's kind of the progenitor of Blumhouse Pictures, which, you know, we have a kind of love-hate relationship with.
Is it a Blumhouse?
No, it's like the precursor to it. You know, Jason Blum has kind of followed this as a guide to making money and success.
So it was just the director's sort of production company type thing. Not even a production company. Just like, I made a movie. Who's going to distribute this movie?
I wonder if I can rent a camera.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because I've been desensitized, but it wasn't that thrilling to me. Like, it was kind of lethargic and boring.
I was just about to ask for people's general opinions. So I'm starting to believe that we now have a telepathic bond. I'm a bit freaked out. So your general opinion on the film is not seeming great.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Not a big fan of.
What about you, Dan?
Fan Day the 13th.
You know, it's a very hard film to watch because it is something that has been parodied so many times. So I hadn't seen it until we watched it the other night together.
Right.
And it's something that has been parodied so many times, and you sort of know the beats. You know, you get the trope of the sort of the attractive young people slowly being picked off one by one, which is not really what happens in Halloween, unless I'm remembering incorrectly. Halloween is more a movie about what's his face, Masked Man,
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers is sort of
Mike Myers.
Not relationship, but I don't know. It's all sort of the things that Myers does are all viewed through the sort of perspective of Jamie Lee Curtis's character.
Yes.
Whereas
there isn't as much of a psychological...
There isn't as much of it. No, there isn't as much of a psychological impact in Friday the 13th.
I think that you could look at maybe the way, like you could dig into it and find like the way that the Greatest Generation deal with what we would now call the baby boomers, but they're teenagers in this movie. Like that friction between the two generations, like yes. In the very start, the young girl that's traveling to be Annie. The cook at the camp, Annie, is talked down to by the older people in the town, the older guy in the truck.
Guy who drives it.
Yes, and then there's a very much a dismissiveness to these young people trying to enter the economy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they're seen to also be enjoying themselves, and that isn't expected. So there's kind of some cool stuff, and I feel like
intergenerational friction.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what the movie's about, especially because like the mum is the murderer, and she feels disappointed by that generation and their lack of attention and work ethic as far as she's concerned.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a really good reading, actually.
What I was going to say about the film is that I was surprised because it is something that is basically a punchline. It's sort of a punchline in our culture today, a little bit. The slasher movie, I think. Yeah. You watch it ironically. It's fun to watch. You know the beats. You know what's going to happen. But what I was surprised about the film is how still a lot of the scenes were.
Yeah.
There was sort of a real, dare I say it, artfulness to a lot of it. I don't know. I found those sort of first-person perspective bits, and there were quite a few of them in the film.
Oh, yeah.
Where people are being watched. Nothing new about that, but I did find them very tense.
Yeah, I think you can generally trace that first-person camera stuff back to, well, it depends how far back you want to go, but generally people would point to
I want to say Hitchcock.
Yeah, there's a sequence in a Hitchcock film, and then there's some stuff by like Dziga Vertov and other Russian filmmakers that did weep as the first-person stuff. But
were they used to sort of instill a sort of sense of fear? A sense that people were being watched by an unseen presence.
Yes.
Do you think? So they have been... So yeah, I figured as much. They had been used to sort of convey that in the past.
Yeah, the way Hitchcock did it, I can't remember what film it's in now, but the way Hitchcock did it, he actually even had a gun at the bottom of the screen.
Right.
It looked very much like a
big Doom fan.
Exactly. So I do feel I feel a bit outnumbered, because I'm going to go ahead and say that I really like this film. And I think I really like this film because in my mind, it now stands out because it, by virtue of being, I think, a bit rubbish when it was first released. It doesn't have a lot in the way of
and
plot.
that was the consensus when it was first released, that it was a bit rubbish.
Critically, it was... you got mixed reviews, and I think some people understood what it was trying to be. It's sort of teen slasher film, even though that genre was very much in its infancy. People got what it was intended, or who it was intended for, and when it was understood, it was kind of like, yeah, this is what it is. And then other people that were holding it up to, films of the time, art films of the time, were saying, this is trash cinema. This is violent, sexualized gore trash. I think with that in mind, and considering the sort of lack of emphasis on plot and how you don't really know why anyone is dying until the end, but you also don't have characters constantly asking, why are we dying? Who's killing us?
Yeah.
Nobody.
You don't have a Jamie Lee Curtis.
There's not much in the way of exposition or or perspective to really go for. And I think seeing that at the time, you probably would have thought that's details that we could have done with. But these days, because I think it is easier to make a film that has a lot in the way of exposition and that tries to hold the hand of the audience so much, I found this to be kind of a breath of fresh air. I loved that it's almost soporific as a film. There's this real sense of just it just going through the motions. It's not trying to keep up with you or trying to keep you informed as to what was happening, and I just really enjoyed it, which I wasn't expecting.
I sort of see that. I think it's probably a hard thing to view the film in that sense, because you do understand. I feel like the film conveys very clearly that, at least to some extent, it didn't have that sort of guiding principle of like, should we be asking why these people are dying? Should more drama be happening? Yeah, essentially, right?
And I kind of love that about it.
I understand where you're coming from.
The director was just kind of going, okay, next scene. Go on ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, I definitely expected from, like, the first part of the film that the cook that was traveling to the camp was going to have more agency, was maybe going to, like, fight the mum. Like, I thought that she was going to be... Well, I thought she was going to be the person to take us through it. I thought she was going to be a character. And then when she just got papped off, I was like... This is quite a strange film.
It's a weird movie. Like, yeah, it's like...
That's unusual, isn't it?
It's like they filmed it as they were going, and then he just went, yeah, kill her now.
Because she was the person that we kind of... I guess it's just like the bias for like the first piece of information, but she was the first character, so you assume she's going to be the Jamie Lee Curtis or whatever.
Watching it this time, I could have sworn that she was the final girl. I could have sworn that she was... we end up learning her name later. It is Alice.
She has a bob.
Well, it does make no.
Yeah.
No, sorry. You thought that the cook was going to be the final girl, like me, but the actual final girl is she called Alice?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. So what, I thought you were going to tell me the name of the cook. Annie
is the first character.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't seem immediately obvious that Alice is going to be the final girl, but then from what little we do see of those teenagers, it becomes clear that she's the most like prudish. There's something different about her. She's not as like sexually active. So then that is the trope of the final girl, isn't it?
That's made explicit, I think.
When they're playing this strip Monopoly and she's surprised and doesn't actually take anything off. Yeah.
Do you know what I just realised? I haven't actually done the plot summary.
Right.
Oh, Jesus.
20 minutes in, no plot summary. Oh my gosh.
Well,
right.
I mean, you know the plot, right? Unless you want to, like...
I'm really, really proud of my plot summary for this one, actually.
It's
full of zingers.
We'll fix it in post.
Oh, no, I'm going to hit it now. Just, I think the conversation was just so riveting for the first 20 minutes that this is the right moment to have it. So here we go. Everybody ready for a plot summary? All right.
Absolutely.
The movie begins with a brief flashback. In 1958, 2 camp counselors at the All-American Camp Crystal Lake are murdered by an unseen assailant. Flashing forward to the present day, presumably Friday the 13th, 1979, the newest batch of camp counselors are making their way to the campsite. We are first shown the ill-fated journey of Annie Phillips, who hitchhikes most of the way to the camp with a truck driver who lets her know about the camp's troubled past. In 1957, Annie is told a young boy drowned in the lake. Since then, the camp has held the reputation for being haunted. Annie attempts to hitch another ride, but meets an unfortunate end when the second driver chases her into the woods and murders her. Okay, so all good so far, right? Very according to the numbers. At the camp, the other 6 counselors and the camp's new owner attempt to ready the site for the coming campers. The Joker, Ned, sensible Bill, curly-haired Marcy, and tall Brenda, and the very Kevin Bacon-y Jack, and the eventual final girl Alice are given various tasks by the owner Steve, who then promptly leaves to go get supplies. Left to their own devices, the counsellors quickly give in to their earthly vices, pranking one another, playing strip Monopoly, having sex, and murdering a poor, defenseless, real-life snake.
Oh, fuck that. That's why I hate this film.
Yeah,
they kill a real snake in this film. This film
is cancelled.
Snake liberation. Fuck Friday the 13th.
Don't tread on me? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, God. Obviously enraged by the murder of a defenseless snake, an unseen murderer, presumably the same murderer that killed Annie earlier, I don't know, maybe Annie killed a snake and we just didn't see it, picks off the campers one by one, displaying an almost otherworldly degree of force. Annie, alone, manages to survive and believes she is saved when a kindly older lady, Mrs. Voorhees, comes to rescue her. However, there is no such luck. Mrs. Voorhees explains that it was her child, Jason, who was drowned in 1957 as a result of counsellor neglect, and she has since been preventing the campsite from reopening in order to protect her son. She attempts to kill Alice, but is easily subdued. Alice takes Mrs. Voorhees' machete from her and decapitates the middle-aged murderer at the side of Crystal Lake. Relieved to be safe, Alice, bizarrely, paddles herself in a boat out into the middle of the lake to wait for sunrise. When sunrise comes, however, she is pulled into the water by a twisted and seemingly zombified Jason. She awakes later in a hospital ward and is told that she was pulled out of the water by police who were unable to find anyone else at the scene. Jason, it would seem, is still alive and thirsty for a sequel.
Do you know what?
And how about 10 of them?
I don't know what.
Good. Did you not feel a sense that the camp owner was going to be the murderer in the beginning? Like, there was a lot of hints pointing to him because he was missing.
Oh, sorry, you thought this movie was going to make sense.
But I think he is the true villain because he was
just because
he's the owner, so he was he was the real one that was negligent when Jason died. Then on the night where
he's only like 25 or something.
Yeah,
he bought it.
He's a Johnny Come Lately.
Yeah. He only bought it.
As in, like he's just started the
year or
gig,
something.
Probably.
But anyway,
you're saying
Jason
spiritually
it's
his fault.
He represents the sort of almost like
ownership.
You know,
he's the ownership of it, and he's
institution.
negligent because he runs off the night that they're all getting murdered,
Is hilarious.
Is no.
Oh, it's great. I love how we just follow him the whole time.
I mean, arguably,
bar,
it's worse to leave all your staff on the most dangerous night of the year that you know and let them all get murdered than to miss a boy drowning. Like, I think that he is the worst person ethically, but then doesn't get any of the like vitriol from Jason's mum. It's really weird. Like, why is, like, Jason's mum's hate for teenagers is
he's slightly older, what
the film is so scary about. So she doesn't care.
Nah, she just kills him at a victory killing, I think. I don't know. She was just like
victory lap.
She's just focused on her KD at that stage.
It's unjust to punish like the most vulnerable workers than the boss who was just as negligent.
Right? Yeah.
That's my feeling.
I like it. We have a Marxist reading of Friday the 13th. I'm really enjoying this.
And
that's what we're here for, really.
Yeah, the Karen's just like,
I was wondering when that was going to come up.
You know, she's got the haircut.
She has
a complaint, and she has like a disproportionate emotional reaction to, like, even with her son drowned, it's like, it's relative to, okay, so that's pretty bad. Your son drowned in my workplace. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Like, can we help? She just chops everyone's head off. Like, to me, that's still too extreme. Do you know what I mean? It's always too much.
It's too much.
But it's an overreaction, you know?
Oh, man. Well, so I want to know then about Karen Voorhees. Do we think that she did the killing, or did someone else do the murders? I know this is a bit cinema sins. This is a bit too focused on text, but I wanted
we didn't literally see her do it.
I want to softball it in. Well, how does Karen chuck a fully grown teenage girl through a window? What's that about? I'm not trying to cinema sins this one up. I'm not trying to.
Maybe it's just me.
Yeah,
but we watched this film right after I got back from a long journey.
Yep.
And quite frankly, I fell asleep at the end. So I don't remember all of it. It is
soporific, yeah.
I don't remember all of it. But I'm almost happier that I don't remember all of it. Because
some of this is coming as
I enjoyed some of it is, sure. I can't tell you what Karen Voorhees looks like. Carol?
Pamela.
Pamela.
Well, she's just called Mrs. Voorhees in this
film. I could not tell you what Mrs. Voorhees looks like.
The thing is, right, she did have to do a lot of heavy lifting. So, So we'll just get you up to speed with that. Like, she even moves when the corpse is into her car to surprise Alice. When Alice goes to use her car when it's left there. Like, she was doing a lot of, like...
She's got a great sense of humour.
Lugging weight about.
I love the idea.
She's in her 50s.
I love the idea of her killing... She kills Alice in the... No, she kills Annie in the woods. And so Annie's dead. And she's going, right, brilliant. Okay, well, that's one less teenager to infect Jason with sin or something. I don't know. Whatever mental thought she has. I think she does Jason's voice. So she's probably like... Yes, mommy, you killed another one or something, like that. But
do not recall this.
Oh no, this is me making this up.
Okay.
So she killed Annie, and then she's
I
think
she does talk to herself as Jason.
She definitely talks to herself as Jason. I'm not making that bit up, but no, I'm just imagining a scene where she's killed Annie and she's in the middle of the woods and she's thinking like, right, well, I should probably just bury her or something. And then another voice in her head goes, no, do you know what'd be hilarious? It'd be so funny if I drove up and Annie was in the car, and then whoever's left tries to get in my car to leave, and
was
then
it
the corpse
Annie?
is there.
I thought it was one of the guys.
That'd be hilarious.
I thought it was Kevin Bacon that was in the car.
No, it's Annie.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
It's the first victim. Which I don't know. Maybe she just took her out of the woods because she didn't want to get caught by the police. But again, I'm doing CinemaSins here, trying to apply logic to a film that is illogical.
So the whole town know about this murder spree, this annual murder spree, like all of the middle-aged folk in the middle of the town, and they try to warn Annie about it, and they're clearly like complicit with it, because though they tried to warn her,
I've never thought of it that way.
They don't stop it. Like, it happens every year.
God, it's only the crazy guy that says don't go up there.
All the middle-aged folk are like yeah, it's pretty wild, But then they must be complicit.
The truck driver tells her to quit. The truck driver says, you should quit, don't do this job, so, I don't know, maybe they're all like... Right,
it's probably the difference between, like, believing that something is corrupt, or like, on the business end of Camp Crystal Lake, like, bumping up against this actual, the guy who says, there's a death curse. And they're like, there's not death curse, they're just, like, shitty.
Yeah, it is quite a good bit when he's like, oh, you should quit. And she's like, I can't. I need to work.
I'm now imagining a version of like Marx and Engels where, Engels is saying like, yeah, there's some difficulties. There are problems with the current capitalist economic system. And then Marx cuts in, it's a death curse.
I'm calling it a death curse. I'm using the word vampiric.
I do
on
think
purpose.
Like,
they're vampires.
really
there.
suitable
They're literally
for a Marxist
vampires.
reading, actually. Like, okay, so then if it's not actually Karen doing the murdering, then she's like murdering their ability to like have a career, you know?
A career?
Like a job. Like they're just all there to work and
Yeah, in fairness,
maybe
I think they're
enjoy
doing
themselves.
I think they're doing unpaid internship type work as
Yeah,
well.
I think it's like quote unquote character building. Do you know what I mean? They get to stay at the camp.
But no, right, okay, I'm going
They're
to throw
not paid?
I don't think so.
kind of doubt it. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like a festival kind of deal.
Camp
It's
America.
like if you work a festival, you don't have to pay to get in, but you know you don't get paid to work there.
Yeah.
The price that you are paid.
I got that vibe.
I disagree. I think they are paid because Annie's talking about, oh, I need to go. Like, it's a job. I need to do it.
No, but I think that's to be read as being like, you know, young people wanting to have experiences.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
There's
like,
a
I'm going to have
deleted-
experiences and at the same time get work experience.
There's a deleted scene of Annie filling in her
Filling in a
her P40, getting her CCD checks and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like- sorry. No, I think that would be an interesting scene to include in a film like this. You know, make it very clear. But moving slightly on from this, I do think that I'm going to have a slight temper tantrum if I don't get to voice my opinion that I think it was Jason doing the killings the whole time.
How?
Because he's like a big zombie thing. I don't know. I
He's
know
a
he looks...
zombie because you think he's magic.
Yeah, because he's magic. So how else is somebody getting chucked through a window unless there's like... I don't know. Maybe Mrs. Voorhees can like channel his zombie strength or something, but I don't know.
Still magic.
It's still mad. There's magic afoot.
I suppose if you think about the murder weapons and them being arrows, like Jason would be the person to have
all
a
camp.
relationship with those objects.
Yeah, they're all like camp things.
As opposed to his mother, who probably has nothing to do with the camp, really.
She's a cook, so she would have like fed them
she
too much
was the
chili and stuff.
cook. Yeah, that's right.
They're not really cook-themed murders.
They're not cook-themed murders. They're like
No one's being bashed by a ladle.
child at camp murder. Exactly.
Yeah. What other... Yeah, carrot stuffed in the...
Mouth.
Yeah, I was going to go for
that's not
eyes, and
good.
then I thought
That's
that
not
was
good.
like quite vicious.
Meat grinder. That's a classic.
I guess she does.
In the meat grinder.
Yeah, I mean, she could have used a meat cleaver. That would have been
Sure, meat cleaver.
chef
Chefy.
themed. Yeah.
Wearing a big chef hat.
I feel like Heather. I feel like you're kind of stuck on the like capitalistic Marxist reading of this film, and don't want to really veer off track from that. Like you're pretty sure this is a movie that is simply anti-Karens. All right, fine. You guys don't seem convinced that Jason did it, but I'm going to take that one.
I'm saying the weapons match up,
I'm going to take that one to my grave anyway.
but I don't think there's any more evidence than that.
What I was going to get at with me falling asleep in the film
Oh yeah.
was that it means that the film was this beautiful experience where I didn't really know who the murderer was, but I knew enough about Friday the 13th to know that Jason is the villain of the franchise.
Yeah.
So the feeling I got was that, you know, it was magic, that in a sense, that it was sort of... So I like this idea that Jason did it. Because I forget where I fell asleep, but the moment I woke up was when the final girl was out on the lake.
Yes.
And the
good jump scare.
zombified corpse. Yeah, the jump scare. So at whatever point I fell asleep, probably the murders were still happening, to be honest. There was a hospital scene. Where does the hospital scene come
That's
in?
the very last
end.
scene.
That's the very last scene. Okay. So I must have fallen asleep somewhere, and I woke up in this beautiful, like,
You kind of woke up with her,
crystalline
yeah.
lake.
Oh
I'm just
right,
like-
yes, with the phaser over the end of
Yeah,
the...
with the phaser.
yeah.
Wow. Did we work out that it was a phaser or a flanger?
I don't know. My guess is on flanger, but I've got terrible hearing.
Right. So I don't know. There's something like that was like almost sort of a magical quality to the film for me.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think that was
I missed
like
the part where
best
things
scene
were
in the
explained.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I will disagree with you only slightly and say that I think that in Friday the 13th, Mrs. Voorhees is the murderer. But that scene is so great that following from that, the franchise decided to make Jason the magical, spiritual villain of every subsequent film because people were kind of like, about the Mrs. Voorhees thing. But I think that within Friday the 13th, as a text, she is the villain.
Do you know what the actress said about the film?
What?
She said, I got the script. I thought, this is bullshit. No one's ever going to see this. but I'll be able to buy a new car.
What, the actress that played Jason's mum, Mrs.
Yeah. She thought it was just terrible, so she phoned this one in.
It was very, unbelievable.
Right. Gonna switch gear here. What's the film's stance on teenage sexuality? I don't feel like that's coming too far out of left field. I think it's like...
No, I think that's that's a fairly common reading of the film, and that the kids are being killed off as some kind of penance for
I'll extend that to all slasher
games,
films.
General sinful behavior.
I think that it is definitely focused on teenage sexuality, but I don't know whether it's condemning it, because like I said, Mrs. Voorhees only has a grievance against their work ethic. Maybe that is relational to their like extracurricular sex, but I don't think she
This is boosting our GPA.
I don't think that she like is really that focused on that element. However, the film as a whole is, and I feel like it's saying, teenage sex, isn't it great? Look at their beautiful bodies. Don't you want to be a part of it? Like, I feel like that's what the film's saying. I don't think it's condemning them, actually. I think it's like voyeuristic.
Really
I think it's voyeuristic, and it's kind of like...
Yeah, I think
it wants to be involved in that world, agree. Even though they're getting picked off.
That is the sense that you get. There is a sense that you get watching the film that, in making it, they were trying to, sell the film with sex, really.
For sure.
There is that. You do definitely get that sense.
I don't think they're trying to make it look bad. Like, I think they're trying to exactly make it
if it was supposed to be condemning of sort of teenage sexuality, then
what would it look
that's
like?
A complete that would be a complete accident. Essentially, they thought let's have all the murder scenes happen at a time when all of the teenagers are like really getting it on.
Yeah.
And that'll be funny, and we'll have the sex and the gore.
I think it was really out of touch for sure, and I think that's why it's not condemning it, because I don't think that it has the gall to do it. Like the way that the girl, the character that's with Kevin Bacon, like runs all the way in a torrential storm to the toilet block to pee after having sex with him, is so unbelievable. I'm like, a teenager would never, like, they would just piss outside the door. Like, they're in a forest. Like, why would she run all the way in a rainstorm to the toilet block just to do a pee?
Go to the bathroom. Wouldn't you go to the bathroom, Dave?
No comment.
Maybe this is just me, but I'm like, why would she be...
I'm scared of peeing outside. I hate peeing outside.
I don't know. They're campers, and it's just a pee. It's just a number one. Like, it just seems mad to me.
It's a tinkle.
It's not character driven, it's plot driven. It's to get her alone in the toilet block for her toilet murder, but it doesn't seem to know teenagers, as far as I think. Like, I don't think a teenager would be holed with doing that.
I think it is easy to be angry with the film as well for that because if it wouldn't have been for Friday the 13th, then we wouldn't have gotten something like Cabin Fever, which is sort of kind of unforgivably exploitative, really.
So
Cabin Fever. I'm
talking about the Eli Roth 2005.
I mean, you've said Cabin Fever, and all I have now is Muppets Treasure Island in my head. So,
yeah. I'm thinking of Cabin in the Woods,
which is
awesome.
Which is a good film.
Yeah. But is it a satire of Cabin Fever?
Let me just.
It's a satire of Evil Dead.
Try and
something like that. Yeah.
Sort of amalgamate your opinions here. So what you're saying is, the film does not condemn teenage sexuality.
I think what I'm saying is that
maybe almost celebrates.
I don't think it celebrates it in the sense that it believes
it's going to put bums on seats.
Yeah, bums on seats, precisely.
And it uses it as a plot vehicle, whether it relates to the character or not. So it's not a character-driven story at all. It's trash. But it's like, oh, maybe they could be having sex here, and that gets them to them. It just uses it as a way to separate characters out. I don't think it's really trying to say anything about sex.
Although clearly Connor is setting this up.
Yes.
To blow everyone's minds.
Ensnare you. And I think it has worked.
Go on then.
Go on then.
Hit me.
I don't want to come across as Puritan, though. I don't want to be like, yes, it's condemning it. That's there. Because I don't think that's in the text.
So then, are you maybe saying that
I'm not saying it's not in the. I'm not saying it's not in the text.
I don't know if it is.
That's not what I'm saying. But anyway.
Oh, in terms of their intentions, though.
It's like these people don't want their mind to be blown.
Come on, blow my mind.
How if I don't get to show how smart I am to the people most important to me, I actually break out in hives. No, so here it is, right? So what you're saying then, that it's not condemning sex. So if it's not condemning sex, if there's no sense of kind of guiltiness to the sex being shown on screen, you know, because it's just Kevin Bacon and his wee girlfriend and they're teenagers, and look at them there looking all lithe.
Yeah.
Remember when you were thin?
No.
So, you know, there's
maybe
this kind of guilt-free aspect to it.
Maybe when you're thin, you do go to the outdoor toilet, but when you've got a wee bit extra chonk, you're like, I can't make it. Maybe that's why. Maybe she would. Maybe I just can't even understand a teenage girl anymore.
Enough of this foolishness.
I'm sorry.
I need to focus on this because I'm about to mention Laura Mulvey. And so what I'm going to say is, if there's no... saw that theory coming a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
If there's no guilt in the depiction of sex, well then doesn't this manage to sidestep the female... No, bloody hell. The male gaze? Is this not a depiction of sexuality on screen that is out with the male gaze? I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Out with, meaning...
Yeah, meaning that...
You meaning it's sort of sidesteps, attempts to sidestep. Not attempts to sidestep, but no. Yeah, we've established that it hasn't attempted to do that, but...
And maybe that's how you do it.
I want to hear more.
Maybe that's how you do it.
Yeah, okay.
That by having the sex scene just being filmed by a bonehead with one camera, maybe that's what it is, because you don't get into that voyeuristic scopophilia that comes from having characters looking at other characters.
Right. I don't think it's in the sex scene, but I think that the male gaze is just about everywhere else in the film. But it's maybe just through budget concerns that it's not in the sex scene, like you said. But it's absolutely all over the rest of the film. But I just have come to know that as what a film is, if you see what I mean.
Well, where just to be clear for everybody else, where is it else in the film?
I think that it's in the
dock scene when they're going swimming together.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe, but I was going to say when Annie is going into the cafe to ask for directions, I feel like she's looked at
that's very
by
good.
A lot of people,
yes.
And she's vulnerable, and then maybe she looks back at like one person and then good. Says, can I get help? And he's like, I'll drive you.
Yes.
In the car, he's like consistently looking at her like side on.
Yes.
And then she's kind of looking back and he's like, you shouldn't go, or blah, blah, blah. He's telling her what to do, and she's kind of like, I feel like the camera's also slightly pointed down at her.
It is, yeah.
So I would say, it starts really male gazy.
So I'm curious. Like, is it possible that these sorts of scenes and the scenes that you have in your mind, Connor, are sort of conversing with each other in a sense?
Well, yeah, that's kind of.
Well, what I think is it's a boomer gaze.
Boomer gaze.
And then that's why
You've got to stop coming up with zingers like that.
The teenage sex scene has this equilibrium because they're the same age and no one's looking down on each other. It's only when the boomers are looking down. Well, they're not boomers, like I said, they're the greatest generation, but blah, 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 blah. To use contemporary vernacular, just the way that the boomers are looking at the millennials is the subjugating gaze in this film.
I really like the idea.
It's a boomer gaze. And sex actually levels things out.
It's really interesting, actually, that dialogue. I do love the idea, though, that the male boneheaded filmmaker like doesn't even know when he then like defaults into the male gaze. Like, we're saying that Cunningham is not the brightest tool in the shed, and so when he's going like, well, the truck driver's taller, so let's put the camera up slightly and have it looking down at the girl. What's wrong with that?
Because he's a bigger man. That won't change the emotion of the scene at all.
But the way cameras work, it makes her look smaller, and it's kind of imposing and a bit frightening. Nah. He's a tall
it's
guy.
like we are him.
And we're in the
and then also we are her.
seat. And she's vulnerable, like all of that comes into play, yeah. And he's like schooling her, like I
actually like
boomer gaze.
the male gaze reading of her at the very beginning of the movie best, because that's when she's fully clothed. That's when she is least an object of sexual desire, and yet the way the film is shot, she is constantly being watched by the camera, and then therefore the surrogate audience, and then she meets the gaze of various other watching men, the crazy guy, the truck driver, and so there is this lascivious, I don't even know if that's the right word,
there's a lecherous element to the start of the film,
exactly, but she's constantly smiling back at the camera,
which is why I wanted her to be the heroine of the film, creepy. Because she's like she just seems impenetrable to it. Yes. Like she's kind of like, well, I won't behave any differently to you. Like I'm not going to show that you've unsettled me or rattled me. Yeah. Like I thought she seemed like a really cool character.
Yeah,
and then she died.
But then that whole part of the of being down with the gaze, that's the whole part of it Mulvey describes that part as like facilitating that scopophilic desire, that men have this inbuilt guilt that comes from sexual objectification, and that they internalize this idea that women are almost facilitating that guilty pleasure thing that comes with it. But it's all mental and Freudian and weird. But I wanted to stick with this mental Freudian weirdness and tell you we thought that I had then about the sex scene, which again I think is really interesting, that we say that the point where characters are most sexual is where the film is least playing into these Laura Mulvey-esque paradigms.
Yeah, it seems very cool. Egalitarian in the sex scene, like the camera.
Well, I was wondering what you would think about the audience of the film.
Yeah.
Then, inhabiting that space of watching the couple having sex, and, understanding that a lot of the point of these not that this is a B movie because it was released, through a major distributor and all the rest of it, but, B movies from the 50s onwards had this reputation of just getting teenagers out of the house and giving them a place to go and basically make out. Mm-hmm. So there are teenagers in an audience watching these other teenagers making out, having sex, and then knowing that, but you've gone to a slasher film, so that these characters are going to get murdered.
Yeah.
Is there a sense in these kind of films that teenagers are taking part in their own kind of subjugation, their own kind of like, if guilt plays a major role in the kind of Freudian gaze, is that where the guilt comes in, where teenagers are like, yeah, I really want to see these teenagers get murdered? Because if sex isn't guilty, then it's not sexy.
No, I think that the market decides that teenagers are like the victim fodder for slasher films. I don't think we've had good stories about teenage experience till the last 5 years. Like 8th grade, Booksmart.
I know what you did last summer.
Yeah.
I don't think the teenage experience in terms of the particular psyche of it and the socio-cultural space of school is really tapped into till cinema now. So I don't think that production companies were bothered about a realistic teenage experience. So it's not like these teenagers were wanting to go see their own subjugation. I'm sure they would have taken a more specific, funny, or different level of depth story of their experience if it had been on offer, but it wasn't on the bill in 1980, not as far as I can see.
But I think, wasn't there a sense that, maybe I'm just reviewing this now as a sort of someone who's born in the 90s, but wasn't there, I wonder if there was always a sense of sort of gratuitous comedy about Friday the 13th. If I am in that teenage couple going to see this movie, is there a sort of catharsis of some kind?
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but I don't think it's through identification with the characters, because the characters were all like objectively like model beautiful. So maybe it was something to do with seeing people your age but way more beautiful than you get murdered. Like maybe that's the pleasure, as opposed to like a direct identification. Like I don't think every single guy in the cinema felt like they matched up to Kevin Bacon, or the girls felt like they matched up to the female characters. Like, do you know what I mean? So maybe it's like when we saw Paris Hilton get murdered in House of Wax. It was like, haha, like you're rich and like famous and, you know, privileged, and we're getting to see you murdered.
I feel like I'm giving too much away about myself now, or giving it too much of a horrible insight to the inner workings of my mind or something. But I don't know. I just can't get rid of the idea that there's something in sex having an element of guilt to it, especially when you're a Western teenager, you know, brought up in the West with its legacy of Christianity. You know, that there is a certain part of you when you're...
The guilt being played out in the part where they get murdered.
Well, yeah, but it's being played out internally in the viewer, you know what I mean? Because when you're 16, 17, 18, you know, you are having sexual desires or may have an active sex life, but there's a part of you that thinks it's wrong, you know? So then seeing that kind of, I guess, sublimated in some way on screen, where that you're like, sex, oh, I like sex, oh, but murder, okay, that makes sense. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm not saying...
But then I wonder about that, you know, the idea of being able to get that catharsis, I guess.
Yeah.
With that sort of release of, you know, believing that sex is something desirable, but also... Wrong. Being performed on screen wouldn't be validating of that fear in some sense, but almost a sort of a way of expelling it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
I actually don't know
cool.
if it's directly relational to the sex. I think it's important that only Kevin Bacon and his girlfriend's character had sex. The other guys and the other girl all get murdered. Everyone gets murdered when they're alone, and I think it's more to do with the groupthink of your teenage life and how you're safer in a group, you're safer just going along with the status quo. There's this fear that you're about to begin your life alone, you're going to have to think for yourself, and when they're off on their own, that's when they get murdered. Except Alice, and for some reason she's the most kind of nerdy, like she succeeds on her own, so maybe there is guilt that like if you waste your time partying or having sex, you will struggle when you have to go it alone. Like if you don't make some sort of sacrifice socially, your adulthood could be a little bit like challenging.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know that I would have died very early in Friday the 13th because if I had gone off to paint my Warhammer,
I think it definitely does say like being well behaved is good, but I don't know whether it says sex bad.
Or maybe Mrs. Voorhees would have been like, "What do you do? You're painting. What? You're such. Oh my god!
What a sweet young boy."
You know, there was one thing else that really struck me about the film, and that is we've kind of hinted at it a lot, which is that it is this kind of popcorn thriller screams movie, you know what I mean, like a jump scare type film.
Supposedly, yeah.
You were snoozing it up.
No, I mean, yeah, I guess I was.
You know, but it seems to be that the reason anybody's going to see this film is because of the killings or the sex scene or whatever, you know. But it just seems to the plot doesn't really get in the way. There's hardly any dialogue in it. You know, the characters aren't really building or anything.
It's forgettable. There's nothing to care about.
It's just kind of ticking along, and then it builds up to this one brilliant jump scare at the end, which is very good, you have to admit.
I mean, I think it's beautiful almost.
That
scene really is beautiful.
The whole film is just...
Can't tell if I was just
working up to that
in
scene.
A sort of, you know...
Are we done... like with this kind of, is a film like this ever going to come up again? A film that seems to have been made on a total shoestring budget and yet still gets this kind of distribution, it still ends up becoming a franchise of something like 9 films of
more than 9 films, roughly 12 or something.
Oh my god!
A video
game,
series, a TV series. Yeah.
Are we ever going to see something else like this? You know, is this the kind of thing that could this crop up on Netflix, or is this just a bygone era?
I mean, it would have to be like meta. There would have to be comedy in it.
That's the thing.
Because ultimately, like a just like a straight down the line jump scare film now is like dogmatic about it, and like it doesn't allow for it to be fun. It needs to be a little bit creative somehow. You know,
I definitely lament that. You know, I mourn the passing of Friday the 13th a wee bit, you know, because there's something really great about its just simplicity.
But I find it hard to enjoy it from 2020.
Really?
Like, yeah, I don't think that, like, it's a film for me to enjoy. Like,
I think
I didn't find it thrilling. Like, it didn't...
It was thrilling to me because I can imagine somebody getting a camera, getting a handful of actors, renting out an out of season New Jersey campsite, and making a bloody film. You know, like there's a real sense of grittiness to this film to me. I'm trying
to think of other films that maybe came to mind while I was watching it, and I think those films were also, you know, these films where people just sort of decided to pick up a camera. Didn't really care that their film didn't really have a plot.
Yeah.
And then just made something.
You know, and it's only an hour and whatever. It's an hour and a half long because there's that scene where Alice barricades herself into her cabin, and they just like let it roll for 10 minutes. Just like you can imagine the director just going, yeah, keep finding more stuff. Tie the knot. She
does it in such a frantic way at first, but then as the shot goes on, you're like, wait, she had fucking loads of time. She should have organised the stuff better, because it's all like falling off. I'm like,
she didn't know that.
Mate, you had like 20 minutes. Like you could have built
5 minutes later. She undoes it all.
Yeah.
It has no purpose in the film.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of an anti-movie, like, and I love it for that, you know, like what we said with Steve going away and, you know,
getting a cup of
coffee, coming back, you're like, oh, here comes Steve, he's going to bring the pain. No, he died.
I think I felt that lack of material though, in the way that they were trying to just run out the film.
It felt like One Cut of the Dead to me,
and that's what like annoyed me about it. Like, it just that I was having to sit through it, like shots that weren't really important, or, you know, like,
having seen One Cut of the Dead though, could you not kind of imagine the director like behind the camera?
Well, the way you put it, you know, people literally passing Alice stuff to barricade the door.
Yeah.
But they couldn't, because then they would have been on film, so they would have had to be like pointing at various things, you know.
So then you enjoy like the ambient production of this film. You don't enjoy the film.
I mean that's true. But I find it really hard to separate those two things. Like when I watch this film, I just see the plagued production, you know, not that it was plagued, the sort of the half-assed production, but I can't help but think that there's just a kind of purity to that I don't see a lot of.
Half-assed art that makes a lot of money. There's a purity to that.
But that's the thing you're asking, Connor. Is that like, could we ever expect this to happen today? Like,
half-assed art to make a lot of money.
These films are still made. Connor, you and I watched the beginning of Zombievers. These films are still being made.
But Zombievers didn't make a lot
Bad
of money.
example.
I love that.
But what I mean is,
about this.
Oh no, I don't.
We didn't get through Zombievers.
Neither of you told me about this. You didn't invite me. This is mad.
I think we did, and I think you immediately exited the viewing space. Yeah, you saw Bill Burr.
But what I'm saying is these films that are absolutely half-assed, that come from presumably a good place, are still happening.
Right.
But can we imagine any of those films ever taking on the cultural magnitude that Friday the 13th did?
I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
What happened? Like,
well, I'm
curious now about some of the sequels. Are they better? Like, did people?
Well, part 3 is the one where
fit into place.
Part 3 is the one where he's got the hockey mask. So, you know, part 3 is worth watching because it's a bit of fun. But I had one final question. Why the hell did they kill that snake?
Oh my god!
Why did they kill? Well, I mean, I think that links directly to the question, to the last yours last comment. They wanted to show a scene of someone killing a snake, so they did.
They had planned for the whole thing to be special effects. I read about it, so they planned for the whole thing to be special effects, and then the
snake slept with someone's wife or something, and then they were like, we must kill it.
It was a hit.
What possible justification is there for killing the snake?
Oh, it's like Brandon Lee.
Do a rubber snake and chop it.
They were going to do that. So the idea was like, we'll film the real snake and then we film him chopping the rubber snake. But then the actor just didn't get the memo, basically, and chopped the real snake.
Who did it?
Huh?
Who did it? Which actor?
I'm not sure what his name is, but the guy's name is Bill. So yeah, Bill killed the snake. And apparently you can hear if you
shouldn't be working if you're that stupid. Like,
oh man,
be like,
Mrs. Voorhees.
Maybe I'll just check and see what they want me to do. Nah, I'll just go ahead and chop this live animal in half.
Yeah.
See, that sounds like it may have been an accident.
No, well, yeah,
that sounds like it may have been someone mistaking a real snake for a rubber one, which is admittedly very stupid.
I think he just got carried away in the heat of the moment. But apparently, if you have the original, an original cut of the film, and you turn up the volume really, really loud, you can hear after the thunk of the machete, you can hear the snake handler off.
Oh my god!
Off to the side, like screaming.
That's horrible. No!
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, because he had no idea. So
I actually think the reason why I can't like this film from 2020 is because like snakes are adorable on the internet, and I like have to look back at this tiny archive of a gorgeous wee snake getting chopped in half, and it's like, how can I not detest this film? Like, it's unforgivable to me.
Good question. I think that's the thing.
Snakes are adorable.
Friday the 13th, unforgivable. Snakes are adorable. So what are we doing next week, Heather O'Donnell?
Oh my god, is it me?
It is indeed.
No idea. It'll be a surprise.
I have an idea. What do you think about this? What if we did salad fingers?
No.
Oh, holy shit. The whole series?
Yeah.
Oh, we could do... I would do that.
Is that going to be your week?
I could do that. If you didn't want to do that, Heather, I could
You do that.
You do that.
I still want to try find the Sadako film.
I'll try again.
This podcast's white whale, basically.
Yeah. I want to do the YouTube Curse film.
We will try.
It's my white whale.
Next week, hopefully be back with Sadako or something else. But other than that, please like and subscribe. We had a strange dip in listenership last week, but hopefully we can get over that again.
It's because everyone's out drinking and partying during a pandemic.
That's probably it.
We also had our first comment. Thank you. We're not interested in purchasing a Russian bride, but we appreciate the comment nonetheless.
Speak for yourself.
We also understand why you interpreted us as people that would want that. So,
and anybody who is listening, thank you so much for listening to the whole podcast. It's really great. And see you next time.
Bye. We love you.
Laters.
Bye.